we'll get this show on the road then. There we go. Red light starting to come on then. 20 minutes of racing here at Donington Park in the Ginetta Junior official eSeries. Lights out then. Off they go. And it's a good start made by George Robinson from pole position. Nathan Williams, slotting straight into second place and immediately trying to find that slipstream as they run down towards Redgate Corner. There's one car glitching out massively in the background, and that is going to immediately put someone towards the back of the field with some connection troubles, but it's Robinson who leads them out of Redgate Corner. Williams going with him in second place. Levine Kishore stays in third, so grid order then for the top three as they drop down the hill now towards the old hairpin for the first time. And that slipstream starting to take effect, and also I think just the sheer pace that Robinson and Williams have this week starting to also take effect. They're already gapping Levine as they drop out of the old hairpin, but here maybe comes the first challenge for the race lead, and it's from Nathan Williams to the outside through Starkeys, but Robinson sees that coming, sweeps across in front of him, gets the inside line for McLean's. This is likely the order of the day, I suspect, through the rest of this opening race of the night. These two probably going to be pretty much inseparable, given how close their qualifying times have been anyway. Does look as though we're in for a pair of really good battles between these two drivers. Out of Coppice, down the exhibition straight. And again, the opportunity now for Nathan Williams as the chasing car to pick up the slipstream is there, but is he going to try and attack into the chicane? It's not really a place where you typically would make a lunge. It's more important to try and get a good exit from the chicane, and then maybe try and attack down into the Melbourne hairpin. Forced Robinson to defend. That might well help Williams in getting that run down the hill, which it has. Look, Robinson again has moved to the inside to cover. And these little defensive moves are also bringing Kishore back into the fight. So 3 of them for the lead as they head out of Melbourne for the first time. And climb up towards Goddard's at the end of the opening lap. George Robinson looks as though he's going to hang on to the race lead, but only just. He's got a real fight on his hands here from Williams, who again looks up the inside, takes the early apex. That's a lovely bit of overtaking there from Williams, and he does go through into the race lead. I think he sort of shocked Robinson there. I don't think Robinson was expecting that attack to come when it did. There's been drama down at the Melbourne hairpin, though. That's Oliver Newton, and I think he's tangled with Liam Bradley because Bradley's also sort of detached from the field. It was the number 16 car, by the way, which had the connection issues. That was Gray at the start of the race, so he's in the pit lane. So we've already sort of lost 3, although Bradley and Newton continue in the race, but they're some way detached from the rest of the pack now. So 3 of them out of contention, but 3 at the front, very much in contention. And Nathan Williams into the lead of the race. Is he now going to be able to break away from Robinson? Robinson might have had the pace in qualifying, but Nathan Williams looks really quick now, doesn't he, in race conditions? And he's got, by Ginetta Junior standards, a reasonable lead as they head out of Schwantz and up through McLean's corner. James Pepper here, battling a bit further back, sweeping up ahead of the number 42 of Albert Henriksen. As there's drama at McLean's, one car spinning. I think Garcia was involved. That's Pepper again, actually. So Pepper somehow came out of that on the grass through McLean's and then sort of slides spectacularly back across the road and deposits himself in the gravel trap on the outside of the corner. So very much taking in some of the sights of Donington Park there was Pepper, but James finds himself as a result dropping some way down the field. Here in 6th place, Dalton Hayward, who drops down into the Melbourne hairpin. He has got William Antrobus ahead of him. Now, Antrobus did not qualify all that well, but the Alton Park podium finisher racing better than he qualified. He's into the top 5 now, heads out of Melbourne with a few car lengths advantage over Hayward behind him. About 0.8 of a second or so, officially speaking, but the lead gap, look, 1.1 seconds at the end of lap 2, so Williams and Robinson not quite as evenly matched maybe as I expected. Robinson needs to try and really get his act together here to stop Williams from pulling clear. Fastest lap of the race then for Nathan Williams, unofficially, but actually that was not a legitimate lap. He exceeded track limits on that one, so at the moment the official fastest lap does still stand with George Robinson in 2nd place. He did claw back a few tenths through the final sector there, so back within 9 tenths or so as they drop through the Craners for the 3rd time. Down towards the really quick right-hander at the old hairpin. Again, lots of curb on the inside line used there from George Robinson, who is just not quite able to live with the pace of Nathan Williams. Here's a good battle, though. In fact, a couple of good battles going on further back. You've got Archie Flint here. Now, Archie, I don't believe, raced with us last time at Alton Park, and running well. Well, he was running well in 7th place, but Albert Henriksen Bell drives past him now, heading up the hill towards McLean's corner. Behind them, Luke Armstrong defending now from a recovering Garcia. Garcia gets the inside line up towards Coppice corner after his dramas a lap ago, and there's a little bit of clumsy contact there. Luke Armstrong finds himself in the gravel. Where did Garcia go? I think he sort of got away with it. He was delayed, definitely. But as Garcia was slipping up the inside, I think Armstrong tried to cut back to the late apex, tried to get the slipstream, the switchback, down the back straight, and just didn't quite time it right. So a bit of contact, but in the end, it's Armstrong who comes out of that the worst. Back on board now with Dalton Hayward, sat in 6th position, to the outside of William Antrobus as they head through McLean's up towards Goddard's corner. And Dalton Hayward wanting to try and convert 6th place into 5th place. Very evenly matched under braking. Dalton carrying more speed into the turn, but you can't drive through the car ahead of you. And thankfully, Dalton realised that right at the last second, backed off, but that really killed his exit speed. So that was more of a timing issue, really, wasn't it? He had the speed through the centre of the corner. Better sometimes just to back up the entry and really try and carry that speed off the turn rather than rolling into the apex when you've got a car right in front of you. Dalton will have to rebuild his attack now. He's well within slipstreaming range, and Antrobus doesn't seem to have the pace to get ahead of him, or get away from him. Already ahead of him on track, but looking to try and build that margin down into the old hairpin. Some brilliant onboard views here, sat aboard the bonnet of Dalton Hayward's Ginetta G40. And from that camera view, you can see perfectly the extra speed that he took through the old hairpin. That slipstream now starting to pull him closer and closer all the time. As they head uphill towards McLean's corner, is he going to have a cheeky little look at the inside? He sort of feints to the inside, tries to force a mistake out of Antrobus, which he does. Antrobus carried too much speed into the corner, lost the rear of the car, and Hayward sees his chance, sweeps around the outside, and I think they'll clear him before Coppice. Yes, he does. Brilliant driving that from Dalton Hayward. Just planted that seed of doubt in William Antrobus's mind there that he was going to have a go into McLean's. William carried too much speed into the corner, and that was the tiniest of mistakes that Hayward was after. So Dalton Hayward, who claims to be the real deal, I think we might have to start believing that, because that was a really classy bit of driving. That was definitely track limits, though, through the Fogarty S's. Needs to be careful doing that too often during the race, but understandably pushing hard to try and get away now from Antrobus before William maybe has a chance to strike back at him. Now, some good battling going on behind. Garcia here in 9th place, and he makes that 8th place by slipping up the inside rather aggressively of Archie Flint. And that, I think, is Albert Henriksen Bell just up the road having a moment of his own as well. So that was some close quarters racing. Not really sure what happened to the other car involved there. I don't think there was actually contact there, but they came very, very close to making contact. And Archie Flint now will try to retaliate if he can. Archie, I think, maybe a bit too aggressive on the downshifts there. That's what caused a loss of traction at the rear under braking, which made it look like he'd been hit by Garcia, but I think they did keep it clean, although it was a very small gap and an ever-closing gap that Garcia went for. But anyway, it worked. He's got through. He's already starting to pull away now. We know Garcia's got decent pace, just dropped down the order after his earlier incident. And now looking to try and chase down Henriksen, who's actually 5.4 seconds up the road. So a big gap now for Garcia to try and bridge. So there goes William Antrobus, continuing his battle with Dalton Hayward. Now, Hayward's really not got away here, has he, from Antrobus? The TNT Esports driver sticking with him and learning, perhaps, from following Dalton, the parts of the circuit at which he was losing time previously. Henriksen is actually the next car behind these two, 2.3 seconds back. So 5th, 6th, and sort of 7th place there, all in the same shot. They drop through the chicane and head towards the Melbourne hairpin, ticking now towards half-race distance. And William Antrobus, is he going to have a little lunge into the hairpin? He's too far back, isn't he, from there? Reasonably big braking zones, though, in these Ginetta Junior cars. No real aerodynamic aids. They've got that rear wing. They've got a bit of a rear diffuser, but it doesn't really aid downforce hugely. So that means it's quite a long braking zone. Plenty of scope for out-braking manoeuvres. That's exactly what we're hoping to see out of this battle, which actually just starts to separate slightly more now as they come out across the timing line. Something else interesting that just happened is that at the front of the field, the gap came down for the first time, I think, in quite a while. 0.3 of a second quicker that time was George Robinson than Williams. Now, Robinson did a 52.942, which was actually the fastest he'd been. He did exceed track limits on that lap, but it was his fastest lap of the race. Whereas Nathan Williams did a 53.2, which is 0.6 off his previous best. So I suspect that Nathan made a mistake somewhere on that lap, which has allowed Robinson to get a little bit closer. He needs to get closer still if he's going to really have a chance of picking up that slipstream. Oh, this will help, though. Mistake there from Williams. Runs out onto the grass. You'd have thought that would lose him traction up the hill, but actually accelerates nicely uphill towards Coppice Corner. So the gap grows just by a length or so. Down the back straight again, you can see the live delta there on the left-hand side of the picture. 1.4 seconds, in fact, now it becomes as they head through the chicane. Good committed run in there, but that delta really not changing at all, is it? Even as they head through the corners. So George Robinson and Nathan Williams really are very evenly matched. It's just that Nathan was a little bit hotter on cold tyres in the early stages. Was able to pounce and get the lead with a lovely move at the final turn. George Robinson so far not really able to retaliate. And meanwhile, the battle for fifth continues on its way down through the Melbourne hairpin. Dalton Hayward ahead of William Antrobus, but you do get the feeling, don't you, that Antrobus has got a bit of a retaliation in the offing here. He's quick, or as quick as Hayward. The question really is whether he's going to be able to find a way past the number 68 car or not. And are they both catching Louis Neal ahead? I think they might be. Neal does a 55.5 and a 54.5 for William Antrobus, so he is catching the fourth place driver. That gap coming down quite noticeably, so 1.7 seconds it is at the moment. Let's see what it is by the end of the lap. If he can get within a second or so of Neal, then he'll start to pick up a bit of a slipstream. Means the last bit of real estate between the two cars will evaporate pretty quickly if that happens. Down through Old Hairpin. This is the part of the circuit seemingly where Hayward is really strong, actually. Gets away from Antrobus slightly. Levine Kishore, by the way, in third place, just in a purple first sector. He's sort of in no man's land, though, really, Levine. 3.8 seconds behind second place and 8.5 seconds ahead of this pair, but he is pushing hard, Levine Kishore, to maybe try and steal the fastest lap, which is worth championship points, remember. Out of Coppice again. Battle continuing on. Say battle, but really Hayward does seem to have Antrobus at arm's length for the time being, doesn't he? So down towards Melbourne again. And Louis Neal in fourth position is, well, through the second half of the lap being caught again, but he had actually got that gap back up to about 2.2 seconds or so there. And you can definitely see it's come down as they come out of the final turn. So Louis Neal needs to work on that final sector. He's good through the high-speed stuff through the first two-thirds of the lap, but it's the tight and twisty stuff at the end of the lap, the two hairpins in particular, where he seems to be dropping a little bit of time, so maybe needs a bit more confidence under braking. And needs to not run quite so wide out of Redgate Corner as well. Bouncing down the grass there, you can see, loses him exit speed. The gap starts to creep back down again now. And Dalton Hayward is within a lap or so at this rate, going to be in a position to maybe challenge for fourth place. Around the old hairpin then. Climb uphill now through Starkey's and Schwanz Doesn't look like it's uphill really from this camera angle, but I can assure you, having walked it a few times, it definitely is. That uphill approach to McLean's actually helps you when you get to the corner because you can carry a bit more speed through the right-hander than you think. With gravity on your side, slowing you down a bit more. A wide moment there from Louis Neal through McLean's, but it does seem that you can run wide through McLean's and not actually lose any time. If anything, it's the quicker way through the corner, so definitely running the risk of exceeding track limits, but no real disadvantage, seemingly, definitely, to running that line. Let's see what Dalton Hayward does differently here to Louis Neal through the final sector. This is where he's been taking time out of him. Well, immediately, look, much quicker through the chicane. Carried more speed in and maintained that speed through the centre. Gained 3/10 just through the chicane alone. Then he's later on the brakes fractionally into the hairpin. A big moment, actually, for Louis there at the apex. He over-rotated the car. And that means that Dalton Hayward is well and truly within slipstreaming range now. He's also 2.2 seconds suddenly ahead of William Antrobus behind. So Dalton Hayward in a perfect position here. He's caught the car ahead. He's got no threat from the car behind. And he's got 4.5 minutes still to try and find a way past Louis Neal to claim 4th position. Back up through the gears he goes, riding on board then with the 5th place man. Can we now start to see that slipstream bringing them ever closer? Took a full second out of Neal on that lap. He takes a much earlier turn into Redgate Corner, but that really works. You hook up that inside curb. That helps rotate the car as well. And you can see that he takes more speed into the corner, but still maintains that gain on the way out. So Louis Neal, who I believe is flashing the lights a little bit to try and signal to Hayward that he wants to work together. I don't think Dalton Hayward's going to pay any attention to that. You're 12 seconds behind the podium runners and continuing to pull away from William Antrobus. I think Dalton Hayward's got only one thing on his mind, and that is an overtake to try and move up into 4th place. Time quickly running out as well in this one. Oh, that's James Pepper off the road, not for the first time in this race. Garcia continues to battle with Henricks and Bell here. Albert Henricks and Bell in 7th position. 1.2 seconds. The gap between them. For Dalton Hayward, the target is clear. He wants 4th position away from Louis Neal. Turns now into the Melbourne hairpin for what will not actually be the penultimate time. They're going to get 2 more laps out of this one. So as they head for Melbourne, Louis, well, in fairness to him, not really making many mistakes anymore, and he's also not fallen into the trap of over-defending or defending too early. Hayward is close, but he's not really close enough to lunge, so there's no real need for Louis to be driving defensively just yet. And you can see there, takes the normal racing line up towards Redgate Corner, so that's sensible stuff. Late on the brakes then. Again, Hayward just takes that slightly earlier turn in there. That's definitely benefiting him because Louis Neal isn't able to rotate over that inside curb as well. The inside curb, because it's raised, it sort of leans the car more to one side, and that helps rotation. Good trick to be used through corners like Redgate, like McLean's as well. Try and get that car turning a bit better. Following here, Albert Henricks and Bell, 42, running in 7th position. He's got the car of Adrian Rios Garcia behind him. They climb through Schwann's curve. Garcia might yet have a chance to take 7th place away. Garcia's been charging back up the order after that earlier drama. Closes in now on Henriksen towards Coppice Corner. Doesn't even think about looking to the inside through Coppice itself. Instead focusing on, again, carrying the speed out, getting in the slipstream down the exhibition straight. Maybe trying to force a mistake out of the car ahead when they get to the chicane. Don't forget, it's still Nathan Williams leading the race. 1.8 seconds his margin over George Robinson. 6.2 further back then to Levine Kishore in 3rd. With Louis Neal, Dalton Hayward and William Antrobus completing the top half dozen. This is the fight for 7th. It's the closest battle on the track right now. And Albert Henricks and Bell is going to have some defending to do, I think, on this final lap. But again, like I was saying with Louis Neal, he's not defending yet, and that's really smart driving. Oh, that was less smart, though. A bit too eager on the throttle coming out of Melbourne. Loses traction, loses momentum. Will that mean that he loses the place when they arrive at Goddard's? I don't think Garcia's quite close enough. No, he's not. Henricks and Bell really sent it into the corner there with some aggression to try and make sure that he did cover off any potential lunge. Garcia, perhaps as a result of that, comes off the turn better, and I think this time he is going to have to go defensive into Redgate Corner. It's such a tempting move to make this, especially at the start of the final lap. Is Garcia going to go for it? No, but Henricks and Bell thought he might dive to the early apex and watch that scrub off speed on the exit. Well, actually, it does more than that. He runs way wide over the grass And that now gives Garcia the run. He's side by side through Hollywood and dropping down through the crater curves. We're going to have a change for 7th place. And that was just that pressure being applied by Adrian Rios Garcia. And it meant that Albert Henriksen Bell just made a bit of a mistake. But Henriksen Bell now in a position where he's got the slipstream to try and maybe retaliate over the final half a lap. Down towards the Fogarty S's, though, comes the race leader for the final time. He's just put a lap, I believe, on Oliver Newton there. Really uses all of the curb on the inside there through both apexes of the chicane, but Nathan Williams has driven well here. Lovely move on cold tyres there in the early stages, the end of lap 1 through the hairpin. And it was a really brilliant move. Caught Robinson by surprise a little bit, I think. And that means that since that point, really, Robinson's not been able to retaliate. The gap went up over a second. It hovered around 1.5 to 2 seconds all race long. And Nathan Williams really never looked back. He accelerates out of the final corner. The time has ticked to 0. The checkered flag awaits. And for Nathan Williams, it is going to be a second victory of the season. And the second time this year, this season, that he's won the first race of the evening as well. George Robinson second. Levine Kishore goes grass tracking off the final corner, but does come home in third. Whilst Louis Neal, I think, with one of the real drives of the race there, actually, defending, or not even defending, just finding the pace to keep Dalton Hayward at bay to the flag, and Louis Neal will come home in 4th place. Hayward then comes home in 5th. 6th place should be William Antremus, but he was nearly caught at the end there by Garcia and Henriksen, who themselves had that entertaining battle for 7th place, with Archie Flint, the next one due through. Here he comes out of the final turn. Archie running under an Italian flag, according to that graphic. Not a particularly Italian-sounding name, but Archie comes home in 9th nonetheless. Luke Armstrong will be in 10th position. Of course, all of these drivers, whilst they'll be disappointed, no doubt, with their race result from this one, they will at least pick up good grid positions for race 2, including James Pepper, who will come home in 11th place, the last car home at the end of what was a very well-behaved race, actually, I have to say. Really good driving standards throughout there. Not a huge amount of contact, a little bit in the early stages, but certainly not once the race settled down a little bit. And that means that we will have hopefully more of the same in race 2, but we also have a chance, I think, to have a chat with our podium finishers. And it was a second victory of the season then for our race 1 winner last time, Alton Park, Nathan Williams, who joins us again in the commentary box. Nathan, big congratulations, a great win that. Talk us through the move that you made in the early stages to take the lead there, because that certainly caught me by surprise.
I've noticed that I was being caught by third. Just kind of had to go for any opportunity to avoid losing second position.
And you were obviously feeling confident under braking, because you braked an awful lot later than George did. Was there a moment where maybe you thought you might still be a bit too far back?
Yeah, I know. My front left rear locked a bit, and I thought I was just going to go right into the side of him then for a bit. But luckily it worked out.
Yeah, thankfully contact averted, and from that point you really just had to put in about 18 minutes worth of qualifying laps, but the pace between you two is so evenly matched, isn't it? It's going to be a fantastic season watching you two battle. Are you looking forward to it?
Yeah, we could.
Good stuff. Well, Nathan Williams, congratulations on the race victory then. A second victory of the season for Nathan, who's going to have to come from the back of the grid now in race number 2. Second place, though, in that race was his seemingly championship rival, it would appear, in the early stages, George Robinson. George, second place, solid points, but I'm sure there's a bit of you that's a bit gutted to give the lead away in the early stages, because from that point on, there really wasn't a huge amount of speed difference between the two of you.
Yeah, after such a good qualifying, it's a shame to give the lead away so easily.
What was your perspective of that move then? Did it catch you by surprise a bit?
Yeah, he came from quite far back. I really wasn't expecting it, and then it was just trying to avoid the contact.
Which thankfully you did, and then sort of maybe spent the rest of the race learning, perhaps. Is there anything you think you can do differently now in race 2 to try and get one back on him?
Hopefully just have a good start and then get through the pack a bit quicker than him, and then should be a good race.
Yeah, that certainly is the plan. George, congratulations on that second place finish, and best of luck for race 2.
Thank you.
George Robinson then in second position. Third place, a familiar name to me at least, having covered the previous series here on PASR, even, easy for me to say. Levine Kishore. Levine, welcome back to the commentary box. Third place finish, and, well, a bit of a boring race for you, I think, wasn't it? Certainly a lonely race. Sometimes that's not a bad thing, but I'm sure you'd have loved to have been in that lead battle.
Yeah, I mean, I just didn't have the pace to be up front. But, you know, it was good. It was damage limitation, considering the fact that I was just off pace compared to the leaders.
Indeed. Well, third place, though, not a bad result. We're going to let you go, Levine, because you've got the second race to come. But very best of luck for that one. And well done on a podium finish.
Thank you.